Welcome to Landmark Theater's Q&A podcast. In this podcast, you will hear a discussion with writer-director Lorene Scafaria and star Susan Sarandon from the film The Meddler, moderated by Variety's Jenelle Riley, recorded at the Landmark West LA.
Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on such a great movie. I have to admit, when I heard the title, The Meddler, I thought she was going to be an overbearing, obnoxious character. And
Me too.
And it's so nice to see a movie about a nice person.
Less overbearing, but somehow inappropriately, consistently inappropriate.
So I guess we should start at the beginning. And I know you're from New Jersey, you're a writer, you have a mother. How autobiographical is this movie?
Very. Too close to home. My mom moved from New Jersey to LA after my dad passed away about 6.5 years ago, and she got an iPhone. And she started calling me on it a lot and left a lot of voicemails, and I started writing the script about a month after that. And then just worked on it, for years, and it was really hard to get made, of course, and then fortunately, I got to send it to Susan, and it changed everything, of course.
And how did the script find its way to you, and what drew you to the role of Marnie?
I just sent it.
Lorene sent it. Well, it was a fun script. It was surprising. I was moved when I read it, and usually 6 pages in, I know exactly what's going to happen, and there were some twists and turns to this one, and then we met, and she was very passionate about it, and then I got a 5-minute sizzle reel with Lorene's actual mom doing my actual part. At that point, her actual part, which was the first 5 minutes, voiceover, and shot by shot of what you saw in the movie. And I was just flabbergasted, and I thought, oh my God, she exists, and she's great. and yeah, let's do it, and we talked some more about kind of the tone, because we didn't really, it was just crying out to be done in a very real way, not over the top, and not, at least I hope it's not over the top, and the tone of it, not condescending, not patronizing, not winking at the audience, but just straight. And we all seem to be on the same page. And then the next question you ask is, well, who would be your ideal cast? So you get another kind of indicator of what you're talking about. And I was so happy with Rose and JK, and they both said yes. I already knew Rose, and it makes it sound like it just fell into place in 2 seconds.
Yeah, it really didn't. This was really hard to get made. But of course, once Susan came on board, I think all the other actors were just really excited to work with her.
Well, if you had been asking for $3 million.
Yeah, forbid.
I mean, in 23 days.
Yeah.
Was that really the budget and shooting schedule?
Yeah.
That I would think it would cost that much to shoot a day at the Grove.
Yep. Yeah, I wrote thousands.
Beyonce's Lemonade,
That's
I think,
right.
cost more than that.
That's right, yeah. Definitely
worth
did.
it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. Well, hey, the cars. Well, good thing she was driving my mother's car. That's my father's red car that she
wore
takes
her mom's clothing
from Chico's. All the tops from Chico's.
Wow.
No, it's true.
It's true. Yeah, carried her purse around, and that's my dad's license, and he plays himself. And
the art.
Yeah, my mom's Kermit the Frog painting, the doll she had made of me.
I had made of you.
Exactly. We have a lot of props already, and a lot of vehicles, and so
we made our own lunches.
We did. No, it was quick and dirty, but I wrote just about 1,000 letters to different people. Dear Beyonce, that happened.
To play the daughter?
To play the daughter. No, to get the song and on the loop. I mean, that could have been our whole budget right there. So that was very generous of her and Diane Warren, who wrote the song. And Rick Caruso at the Grove. I mean, we have a lot of the Apple Store. I mean, there were so many things that on paper seemed way too ambitious and costly, and that was part of the reason that I shot that little sizzle reel with my mom, was I wanted to show potential financiers I thought we could, do it for less, and we had to.
And I don't mean to sound naive, but part of me really wonders, why was it so hard to get made? I mean, it's a fantastic script.
Oh, you are so naive.
Well, I wasn't coming off a win. It's about a woman of a certain age. That's what people like to say, certain age. And the daughter role, I was asked to make the daughter role as big as the mother role, if not bigger, and I didn't want to because that defeated the whole point of the movie. So, I really wanted to stay this character study, kind of change what a meddler means. And
So it was all my fault?
it really was. It really was. It was all the story's fault, and I was certainly asked to age everybody down if everybody could be 22. And so, it was hard to get made. But honestly, I was home alone one night, very sad, and I was watching commercials for Tammy, and I'd been thinking of Susan for the role for 2 plus years at that point. And so I just was like, damn it, I'm just sending it to her agent with a letter. I love writing letters. And so, I'm just so lucky that she said yes, because it made it a whole lot easier to get the movie made.
My agent loved it, and she pushed and just kept hanging in there trying to put it all together too. So she
did help. She has a mom like this, so that
she
helped
totally
out.
has a mom like this.
Yeah.
Who has a mom like this? Right? Yeah.
Good. Is anyone a mom like this?
Yeah.
There we go. Honesty. That's nice.
And what was it like for you? Because again, I don't mean to sound hopelessly naive, but to get a script like this where it's, the lead character is a woman over 60, she has, 2 men pursuing her. She's on every single page.
She's not dying. She doesn't have Alzheimer's.
You're right.
ALS. None of that. It was great. I loved doing. I'm a character actor, so I don't have an ego problem with doing 3-week stints in movies if they affect something. Sometimes it's more fun not to have that much responsibility. But it was great to be able to be throughout the whole thing and actually have something to hold on to and to see that change, as subtle as it is. And to know that, we were working hard because we didn't have that much time. So to know that I had the stamina and that I really enjoyed it, it was great.
And you guys talked about tone, which is something that's so interesting to me because as funny and touching as this movie is, someone pointed out it's the best portrayal they've ever seen of handling grief on screen. And I'm sort of curious how you walked that line.
Well, grief walks that line, I think. And I mean, grief is awful and hysterical and weird and surreal and lonely and yet, fulfilling in this weird way. I mean, I guess for me, I when going through this, I was thinking that my mom was sort of in denial and acceptance at the exact same time while I was in anger and depression. And so, we were just grieving really differently. And I just thought, I got to be honest about, how mean I could be as much as how annoying she could be sometimes, but really just talk about the circumstances that put people in these places and hopefully reach people who've been through similar things and, keep it light. But
I think it also speaks to just transitions in your life, whether or not it's your kids growing up and leaving the house and suddenly your job is gone if you're the mom or the dad, or you break up with somebody you've been with for a while and you've really found or get a divorce and you've really found satisfaction in loving them. This woman loves to love, and then now where does she put that? She's opened her heart and she loves doing things for people, and where does that go? It's so easy to just close yourself off, but so I think at different points in our lives, even if it's not a death, that you have to learn how to, or you have to figure out how to direct that, because it's part of your identity if you've been in a couple of any kind. Meddler's pretty harsh word, but we're changing the meaning. Trying to change that. We're trying to rebrand.
Yes,
Meddler.
we're rebranding.
Because I think, if you're going to err, and you're overly generous, that would be great if everybody started making that mistake. So even though she's pretty consistently inappropriate, it's so well-intentioned, and I think she makes so many people happy that it's kind of hard to see it as a, she steps on toes and she makes the daughter's life, there's nothing more. I could actually see myself going up to one of my kids' exes and explaining that really she loves you so much. Can't you just give it another shot, I was always the loudest mother on the basketball court, and hands down, hands up, And my son would come back and say, Mom, we watched the tape of the last basketball game. You're so loud. Things like that you don't mean to be embarrassing, but, And then my kids meddle back. So
really,
absolutely, they have opinions about who I should be with. Nothing I've ever done politically or in a film. There have been a couple films they told me they were so glad I wasn't in them. And there have been times when, well, that's not true. There were a few times. Years ago, I had a tribute at Lincoln Center. And so my kids were like 7, 10, or 6, 9, and my daughter was like 12. And so they do, like the montage of everything. And it was a very great group of speakers, Bowie and just a lot of Gore Vidal. It was a very classy thing. But it's true, some of the clips were a little racy and nothing too, they were a little racy. And I looked over at one point and my like 9-year-old was going, and so and my daughter was laughing hysterically. She's the oldest one. She just was laughing hysterically that he was so upset. So when it was over, I said, well, what did you think? And my son said, did it never occur to you that you might have children? And then the little guy, who was like 6, I said, well, Miles, what did you think? And he said, I thought it was great, Mom, but scarring. And the older one didn't say, she just thought the whole thing was hilarious because they were so upset. So, sometimes there have been times when they've cringed, but really not in anything important, like maybe you shouldn't kiss them when you're dropping them off at school or something like that. But I am always, when I come from New York to LA, I bring bagels because they're the best bagels, the ones in New York. And I'm sorry, it's true. Stuff like that. I still make them Christmas stockings and Easter baskets. They're different now. Like I made the mistake of putting condoms in the last Easter basket. And my son was like, that wasn't funny. That was not funny. I don't know. What are you, crazy? But I thought it was pretty funny. So I do that kind of meddling, and they definitely turn me on to, I wouldn't know Nathan For You, or I wouldn't know, that's a TV show. I don't know if any of you've seen it, but it's very cool. I wouldn't, there's a lot of music, for instance, that they have. I'm so lucky to have. That's why you have kids. Later on, because they can educate you, keep you culturally up to speed. So they meddle in my life, and would never tell my daughter how to raise her child. I just am waiting to corrupt her later, but I don't interfere now at all. And but it's a mutual meddling. So I don't think it's quite. But she's an only child in the movie, so that's different. You can split it up when there's more than one, right?
Yeah,
so
no, divvy that up a little bit.
People take turns.
That's better that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do your kids think of this movie? Have they seen this one?
Only one of them has seen it. I can't really tell them to go see it. You know what I mean? One of my sons went here, but when it was in New York, where my other son is, I think they're going to go soon. He wants to go with his friends. He was actually DJing the night of the Tribeca opening, so he couldn't go then. And my daughter's been, Mom, I haven't been out to a movie in months. She's got a little baby. I know. Well, we sent you a link. I just, like I have time now to see anything, So she hasn't really, I don't think there's anything, I'm not reading anything into it, but she hasn't had time. I hope there's not a reason she's not going to it.
Yeah.
Well, what about your mother? I'm sure she's seen it.
A lot. Yeah, this is her favorite movie. She loves it. Yeah. She just made me go see it with her on my birthday because that's what she wanted to do on my birthday. And I was like, I have also seen it. But so, yeah, she loves it. She's over the moon. When she found out Susan was playing her, she was like, oh, my God, we should all be so lucky. And then, said like, oh, Daddy would have loved to be married to Susan Sarandon. So, yeah, she's pumped.
Did you guys actually meet? Did you draw anything from her?
Well, she did the whole first part of the movie, so I saw that, and I have her clothes and a number of her daughter as a source. We all had dinner together.
Yeah, we had a double date with Rose.
We had a double date with Rose, and she was around but not allowed on the set.
Oh, God.
Really?
No. She showed up, though. She showed up at one day and was at the coffee truck for a few hours, and that was embarrassing.
Just showed up.
Yeah, she did. She really did. She because I would send her things. I would send her too many things. I would, keep her aware of where we were, and there she was. But
Did you say cantaloupe?
I have said cantaloupe. I said cantaloupe on my last film because I had her on set every day of my last film. It was very fun. She brought 2 chairs in case anybody needed one. I was like, nobody needs one. But she was there every day and spicing things up and almost getting me fired by telling the actors, oh, you were so great in that scene. And I'm like, no, just don't say anything to them, even if it's a compliment. So cantaloupe was created there on that set.
I want to talk about the rest of this amazing ensemble because every role is so perfectly cast, and especially, obviously the women, Rose Byrne, but also a lot of these, supporting roles, Cecily Strong and Sarah Baker, really filled out with some of my favorite faces. Was it, were any of the roles specifically written for people?
Not at all. Honestly, once Susan came on board, it was a whole lot easier to get Rose and J.K. Of course, both of them were really excited to be in the film with her. And then it became very easy to sort of ask people if they want to do a scene or two with Susan. It wasn't hard to get people to want to show up. So it was really just about who would be the right people for it. And Gerard Carmichael was someone I'm friends with.
For me, that was like such a gift to be surrounded in every single part by people that were so funny, but also just right on their game. And so if something happened, it could go in that direction, and you didn't have to worry about the scene just stopping. And everybody brought something. All those gals, so pregnant, were so funny and hung in there and game and sweet. And if you're going to be stuck all night in a car with somebody, Gerard is really a good person to be stuck with. And the cops, everybody. It was just like acting camp, kind of, or
they just show up someone would show up every week or 2 and be like, oh my God, this person. Now I get to watch this person play off of Susan. It was really fun.
It was fun.
And I'm so curious about chemistry because, first of all, I was probably way too invested in your relationship with J.K. Simmons in this movie.
Me too.
Yeah.
But also, your chemistry with Rose, she really does feel like your daughter. And you mentioned you knew her before this?
Yeah, but not that much. We have her really good friend is also a really good friend of mine, a guy from Australia that was in Speed Racer, Kit Gurry. So we'd been around each other and everything, but of course, she just showed up ready to rock and roll, and the stuff that she has to do was, I keep saying it was like the X Games of acting, because she had to come in, and I'm talking about no place to mood up. There was no like dressing rooms or anything. You had to just come in and with all burners on, and she would be angry to upset to laughing to crying to angry again, in one scene, in one long take or something. Everybody can't do that, and to have that great a sense of humor and be that emotionally accessible is pretty rare. Melissa McCarthy's also like that, very surprisingly. And I think because Rose is such a good person, that character could have been, an eye-rolling kind of just as obnoxious as the mom could have been.
That's true.
And because
more.
she, like, I just love what she does in those scenes. Like when I say, well, maybe I could be your assistant, I could go with you. Oh, no, I don't think so. She could have just been angry and mean, and so she brought something that I was so grateful for. And I mean, this is why actors fall in love with other actors, because when somebody shows up and they really give you what you need and you can depend on them, and they make it surprising and you surprise yourself, it's just a love fest. And really with Rose, that's what happened, this intense 2 weeks. And JK too, there was some moments where we went off script and he was just like delightful. He's so kind of centered and relaxed in who he is, and I just felt like I was sitting in the light of these two blue beams that were coming at me that were so safe and so sweet. And when I first saw the first scene of us when I had to loop something, I was just flabbergasted at how crazy I was. And he was just so steady and so calm and sexy. And
Sexy, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like, I mean, looking back over your films, you've always had great chemistry with your co-stars. Is there, or maybe you fake it well, I don't know.
I'm a good listener. That's really all it is. I try to be present and listen. And I think chemistry on screen has to do with the audience believing that these two people see each other in a way that nobody else has, whether or not it's two women or a woman and a child or two guys or whatever it is. I think it has a lot to do with that rather than attitude, or I don't know. I think I'm just a good listener.
So you might have already answered this when you mentioned that you had 23 days and $3 million. But what ended up being the hardest part?
Yeah. Should have done that.
What ended up being the most difficult part about making this movie? If there was a particular scene, or it could have even been in the pre-production process.
I know what you're going to say.
Oh, you do? The boat.
Oh.
The boat. I also get seasick, so why did I write that? I don't know. But that was just an obscene day. It was a day on a boat that should have been 2 days, and there we were with Blues Traveler on board and waiting around to play their song.
Waited all
They waited all day. They waited all day, and we were out on the water, and people were just getting into like little rafts to go back to shore as we didn't need them, and it was overwhelming. And by the end of that day, oh my God, that was the last thing you shot was with telling Jason Ritter that scene, and I mean it's just like, how does she still have it? Like it really was an exhausting long day. But
what about for you? Same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know I think that honestly, so many people were giving so much back that I mean, that was logistic. A director has much more to, an actor, you just have to keep your bubble up. It's not really like you have to just, you have to focus constantly as a director. So, I mean, they were long days and they were long weeks, because we would start early on Monday and go into Saturday dawn, and then get like half a day, and then start all over again. So it was a rough schedule, and there was one stretch where I had to work on the weekend on something else, so I went for 2 weeks without a day off, and I was surprised that it was cool.
She was a trooper. It was crazy. I really mean it. I mean, obviously the boat day was one of 23 days. We did have a day even earlier. We had like a half day where you drove that car around, my dad's car. But yeah, I mean, it was a rushed thing. And so obviously people like JK and Rose and Susan made it so much easier for me to concentrate on anything else that might have been falling apart.
The scene where she ate the bag of weed. Have you ever experienced something like that in real life? And what did you actually eat?
I do not eat weed unless it's cooked. So I actually was giving an interview with a pot publication, and I said, "What is it even possible to get high without releasing, without cooking it?" Because in my experience, I've never heard of that. And they said, well, it's certainly not easy. You would have to eat a lot of it, and the high would probably take a while and everything. So we talked about it because some stupid reviewers that obviously did not do their research said, oh, she wouldn't even be able to move, but that's not the case. I did eat a lot. It was not pot because it was a long night. I've never worked stoned because it's just too difficult. But that would have been a good time to do it if I didn't have to do it all night long. But anyway, so we just decided that part of it was also psychological, you know, but that she could be like a contact high with herself. But you wouldn't get that high by eating it without having it roasted. Just in case you're wondering, always roast your pot. You can also cook it with some ghee. If you're going to put it into brownies or something, you know, I've read that that's what you can do.
You should do a recipe book.
But we just decided, I've thought of that. We were talking, though, about this idea of that was improvised, all the stuff there. There wasn't really a plan, but I just said I think she would be eating everything in sight.
Yeah.
And so that's basically...
At the Grove at night?
The Grove,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. We just put Susan on one side of the Grove and said, just do what you will. And she started with a pretzel and finished with an ice cream. And yeah, it took us the whole way. It was really fun to follow her.
And what was the pot in the movie?
Kale.
Really?
I think. Yeah, kale chips, I think. Yeah, a lot of kale chips.
Well, yes, what's next?
What's next? I have another film that hasn't come out yet. That I think that also was in Toronto at the same time. That at that point was called About Ray, but I think the title has been changed to 3 Generations. It may change again to The Meddler too. I don't know. With Naomi Watts and Elle Fanning about a young girl who's transitioning. And I'm filming. I don't know if you've heard of Xavier Dolan, who's a pretty hot French-Canadian director, and he's doing his first English-speaking film starring Kit Harington, who is alive.
Spoiler alert, sorry.
From Game of Thrones, and Jessica Chastain and Kathy Bates and me. I'm not sure who else. It's a smaller part. Kit has the big part. The girls have the smaller parts. And then I'm doing something that I can't talk about, but I'm going to be in LA for a limited TV series. I can just say, I'll say it's with Jessica Lange, all fall. So I'm looking forward to that because, again, you don't get to work with women too much. And then I have a lot of animation stuff. I don't know when that comes out because they take forever, you know, voices that I've done. And you, my dear?
I'm just going to follow you around. I got nothing. Yeah, I don't know. Tell people if you like the movie, and then I'll get a job. That's it.
And how is your mom dealing with her newfound fame? I mean, does she get a kick out of it, or?
Of course, yeah. She's having the time of her life. Like everything else, we're experiencing this completely differently. At the premiere in LA, afterwards, my friends were all bawling and like having trouble standing up, and her friends and, you know, my mom, they were just like, aren't we nuts? Aren't moms fun? And so, like, you know, that's basically what's happening now.
I was just saying tonight it's going to be really a letdown when everything stops because it's a little film, so we've been working really hard to try to get it to people. It's this slow release. That's why we need you guys to all talk about it and everything. And we've been doing a lot of work, and she's been around, and so it's been like this whirlwind, and all of a sudden, I mean...
I think she might start dating, though. I think we might have... I don't know. I mean, maybe, you know, writing her a love interest that maybe, I don't know, maybe we're getting her out there.
Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you all for staying. Thank you.
Again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for watching Landmark Theater's Q&A podcast. Feel free to check out our other videos, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again for watching.